U.S. House advances legislation that would provide $2,000 stimulus checks to some Americans. We'll look at whether the current stimulus package signed by the president would affect your taxes. How one piece of equipment saved the life of a Knoll, Missouri firefighter.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
COVID-19 has now claimed more than 334,000 lives in the U.S. That's 1 out of every 1,000 Americans. And tonight, relief is on the way for millions of Americans hit hard by the pandemic in other ways. Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
Sunday was the busiest travel day at U.S. airports since the pandemic began, prompting concern from healthcare experts of a surge on top of a surge.
I think we're now in a viral tsunami.
With ICU beds still scarce, California is expected to indefinitely extend a stay-at-home order for most of the state.
Today is an answer to prayer.
On Monday, Florida began offering vaccines to those aged 65 and up.
We're going to have a life then. You know, we can see the grandkids and travel and do what we want to do.
To date, more than 2 million Americans have been vaccinated against COVID-19. The federal government had aimed for 20 million people by the end of the year.
Here on Capitol Hill, House lawmakers aimed for more financial relief for struggling Americans.
The bill is passed.
The House passed a bill to increase stimulus checks from $600 to $2,000.
Putting money into the hands of the American people is a boost to our economy.
I worry that this whopping $463 billion won't do what's needed.
The president demanded higher stimulus payments when he signed the coronavirus relief bill on Sunday. It's not clear if the Senate will take up the measure.
I am telling Donald Trump, don't just talk about it, act. These Senate Republicans have followed you through thick and thin. Get them now to act and support the $2,000 checks.
The Treasury Department is scrambling to distribute the relief that's been approved. The first payments could start going out by the end of this week. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
With a second round of stimulus checks in the works, many people are wondering how COVID relief funding will impact their taxes. One of the biggest questions on taxpayers' minds is whether they'll have to repay any of that stimulus money in taxes. The short answer is no. That money is tax-free and yours to keep, regardless of whether you normally get back a refund. Small businesses are getting the same breaks with the Paycheck Protection Program, loans, and tax credits.
We're going to be dealing with a lot of this stuff as we go into tax season and having to reconcile this, because we'll be asking a lot of people, did you get your stimulus check? Did you get your PPP loan? Did you get any of these credits? Because there are a lot of things that people have missed out on just because they just didn't know it was out there.
One big thing to budget for, unemployment benefits are taxable income. That means if you received unemployment benefits without withholdings, you could end up with a much smaller return or actually have to pay in extra this year. We have more tax tips in this article on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. In a special meeting, the Joplin City Council tonight voted to approve 2 ordinances on an emergency basis for a proposed development off 32nd Street. The project, called 32nd Street Place, is asking for the TIF to help fund improvements in the area deemed necessary for the construction of their project. 32nd Street Place is a multi-phase project that, when complete, would include a Menards store, a movie theater, and 300 units of multifamily housing.
I'm excited. This is a big win. Joplin deserves nice things, and this is a nice thing for the community, and I think it'll be a benefit for everybody in the region.
Council tonight also passed a number of other ordinances related to that TIF request. Those will move to a second and third reading. Nick Kelly joins us now with a first look at the weather. Hi, Nick.
Good evening, Dow. It's been a quiet day, but a cold day. Certainly much colder compared to the lower to middle 60s that we saw on Saturday and Sunday, right after the Christmas holiday. 39, that's the best we could do at Joplin Regional today after starting in the middle to upper 20s this morning. Now we're shifting our focus to the winter weather advisory, clipping Greenwood, Woodson, Coffee, and Anderson counties on the Kansas side until 11 o'clock Tuesday morning, ahead of our next storm system on the way. It's not quite here just yet. At least we're getting the cloud cover from it, and what looks like snow on the the radar, not really reaching the ground. It is reaching the ground, though, once you go into central and western parts of Kansas, where the storm system is really starting to get its act together. Before it gets here, though, we're just setting ourselves up for a cold night, already in the lower 30s around Nevada and Stockton Lake, everyone else in the mid-30s. We'll have to watch temperatures overnight, because some will be around 33 in the morning, with some just below freezing. That could lead to a rain and maybe some freezing rain mix for some of you. Then we'll see temperatures back in the mid-40s by noon and highs near 51. And this is just one trick the storm system has up its sleeves, Dad. We'll see what the system wants to do down the road here in just a bit.
All right, we'll catch you then. Thanks, Nick. Authorities in Noel, Missouri are investigating a fire at the African grocery store and the adjoining mosque. Crews were called out to the fire at around 7 this morning. 3 people were inside when the fire started, apparently in the back of the store, then spread to the mosque. 1 person was injured and taken by helicopter to the hospital. The city's fire chief says he does not believe the fire is suspicious. 1 Noel firefighter was also taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but his family says his life was saved because of his helmet. KOAM's Caitlin Shive has that story.
The Barrett family has firefighting in their blood. So when the fire at the Knoll African grocery store and mosque broke out Monday morning, all hands were on deck.
The boys are always, hustling out for fires or car wrecks or whatever. And so didn't think too awfully much about it, just listened to the radio. And then I caught some Facebook Live from in town and realized how big it was.
Mandy Barrett is the president of the Knoll Fire Department Auxiliary, while her husband Brandon is the fire chief. Her 22-year-old Blake is a lieutenant, and her 12-year-old Briar is a cadet.
It turned into listening to the radio and hearing Blake make entry into the fire, and Brandon, giving directions and whatnot. But then Brandon called me. I don't even know what time it was.
A call no mother wants to hear, as Chief Barrett let her know that Blake had been injured.
That was my first. I've just got to get there. I've got to see it with my own eyes that, Blake is talking and fine. And, he did not enjoy being on that stretcher, I'll tell you.
What had happened was one of the beams across the window or the door over here on the main building had fallen. It struck him right in the top of his helmet, mashed his helmet. Pretty much it saved his life.
Blake has a thoracic compression fracture in his 5th, 7th, and 8th vertebrae and will wear a brace for the next 6 to 8 weeks, an injury that could have been worse without the protection of his helmet.
Even car wrecks or, any type of medical response, you're going to see them in their gear. And I'm thankful, it could have ended very, very badly had he not been protected the way he was.
In Knoll, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
The Barretts hope for a speedy recovery as Blake is set to start the police academy on January 17th. 5 people died on Missouri roads during the holiday weekend, with wrong-way Christmas Day accidents blamed in 3 of those deaths. The counting period began Thursday night and ended yesterday. 2 people died Friday in a wrong-way crash on Interstate 470 in Jackson County. Another wrong-way wreck killed a man in St. Charles County on Friday. A 14-year-old girl passenger died in a wreck Thursday, and a 56-year-old woman died yesterday when her car left the roadway in Cole County. Still ahead, we're going to have the latest on the investigation into a bombing in Nashville, Tennessee. And the TSA reports a large number of holiday travelers as states struggle to control the pandemic. Federal officials say they know who carried out the Christmas morning bombing in Nashville. The question is, why? They've identified the only suspect as 63-year-old Anthony Warner, a self-employed computer expert who died when his RV exploded. Mola Lange has the latest.
Tonight, the FBI is piecing together who 63-year-old Anthony Warner was. Prior to the Christmas morning blast, Warner deeded his house to someone and gave someone else his car, telling them he had cancer. The FBI is investigating Warner's medical records to see if that's true. David Roush is director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
I know a lot of times in these sort of cases, there is something that maybe sets someone off.
Clearly, there had to be some precipitating event that caused the action.
Surveillance video illustrates the sheer power of the explosion, which came after warnings blared through a loudspeaker on the RV followed by a countdown.
If you can hear this message, evacuate now.
Then punctuated by the song Downtown by Petula Clark. The blast left 3 people injured. Tonight, federal agents continue to sweep through evidence from the scene. Authorities are also combing through Warner's credit card records, which appear to show purchases of security alarms and chemical precursors, material possibly used to make a homemade bomb. CBS News has learned investigators are considering whether he targeted communication systems by blowing up his RV just outside an AT&T transmission building. One source tells CBS News Warner's late father actually once worked at AT&T.
The next step in that is let's figure out the why. And the why is the longest process. The key information that we need is gone with the suspect.
Officer James Wells was one of the officers who rushed to the scene to evacuate the area. This video shows him walking away from the RV just seconds before the explosion.
So I turn around and start walking in the opposite direction. And then 3 seconds later, boom, that's what saved my life. That's what got me to see my kids and my wife on Christmas.
Well, this explosion has certainly rattled this city in more ways than one. Nashville officials have been trying to reassure the public that the city is safe and that there are no known threats. Meanwhile, the FBI says that it appears Warner acted alone. Mola Lengi, CBS News, Nashville.
The CDC has been urging Americans to stay home during the holidays, but a new statistic shows that's not happening. The TSA says it screened more than 1 million people on Saturday, the day after Christmas. December 23rd saw even more people traveling by plane, marking the heaviest travel day since the pandemic began. As for the day after Christmas, the TSA screened roughly half the number of travelers this year compared to last year. TSA screening numbers also surged the weekend before Christmas. This all comes as experts warn of a post-holiday surge. With another huge surge of the virus expected in the next few weeks as travelers return home, people are waiting in long lines for COVID tests. States are also coordinating vaccine distribution. People in long-term care are next on the list. In New York, officials are warning healthcare providers they could lose their license, go to jail, and be fined $1 million if they break the rules dispensing vaccines. California added more than 50,000 new COVID cases on Sunday. Nearly 7,000 people are hospitalized in LA County alone. And Southern California funeral directors say the rising death toll is putting a strain on their operations.
As people call in, they may have to tell a family that they simply can't help them because they don't have the capacity to do so.
Today, California Governor Gavin Newsom said state officials likely will decide tomorrow to extend the state's stay-at-home order. Nick Kelly is up next with his complete forecast, and a little bit later on KOAM News at 10, a Christmas Day murder in St. Louis claims the life of a pregnant woman and her daughter. We're going to hear from the victim's family as police work to piece together what happened.
After lower to middle 60s Saturday and Sunday to wrap up the weekend, we're definitely quite a bit colder today, setting the stage for our next storm system working in. At the very least, even though we have mostly cloudy skies today, no rain, no winter precip to speak of over Indigo Sky just outside of Seneca, Missouri. And we're still looking quiet, even though it is turning a lot more cloudier outside. 36 in Joplin feels like 32 with that light east breeze at about 5 miles per hour. We're seeing everybody dropping back now mainly into the lower to middle 30s, more lower 30s in our northern and eastern parts of the area. But everyone's set for a cold night, and again, that's setting us up for our next storm system on the way. Out ahead of it, we already have a winter weather advisory for Woodson, Greenwood, Coffee, and Anderson counties on the Kansas side until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And again, all ahead of our next storm system. Looks like it got here earlier today with some radar echo suggesting a little bit of rain or snow in some of our northern counties. The thing is, though, it was still a little bit too dry just above the surface. So we are slowly saturating the atmosphere, and that's going to definitely result in better chances for rain and maybe some freezing rain starting tomorrow morning. Right now, though, the storm system producing quite a bit of snow in parts of Nebraska and north central and northwestern parts of Kansas. The storm system at the surface beginning to work away from the Four Corners in the desert southwest and upstairs to the jet stream level. Note the upper low working over Nevada now. That's going to continue to provide the cooler air and more energy for the storm system to work with. and we are definitely going to see its influences on us over the next several days. At least to start the overnight out, we're keeping things quiet, but again, cloud cover, the dominant rule of thumb. But note the future track by 3 a.m. and up to about 6 a.m. Temperatures in the mid-30s for some, but some near the freezing mark. The closer you are to 32 or just below it, some of our northern counties, for example, you can see a little bit of freezing rain trying to mix in while everybody else starts the day out with some rain chances. Fortunately, this doesn't last too long. By the time the morning drive is done, most of us will be back above freezing, and we're going to see temperatures easily back into the mid-40s by noon and pushing highs into the lower 50s. So if we had any freezing rain chart accumulate in the northern counties, it's not looking like a big deal. Maybe a glaze at 1/10 of an inch at worst. In general, though, we are going to see temperatures start cold around 33 in the morning, a break in the action around noon, and then we'll watch for more showers to develop late in the afternoon. Before that, though, not too bad with temperatures topping out around 51. Now let's focus on the rest of the storm system. So once we get past its first trick up its sleeve with some rain, even some freezing rain chances to start Tuesday morning out, quiet around lunchtime, then more rain chances working in Tuesday evening. Going into Wednesday morning, highs in the 50s early in the morning. Then behind that cold front, temperature is looking to drop quite a bit. Could bring in some minor accumulating snow if this forecast can hold. In the grand scheme of things, though, we are going to see this result in 1 to 2 inches of rain before we see the backside of this storm system roll on in. Thursday, New Year's Day, during the afternoon and the evening, we could see this work back in as rain and freezing rain chances before this ends as a rain, sleet, and snow mix to ring in 2021. At the very least, we're at 51 tomorrow and early on Wednesday before temperatures rapidly drop throughout the day. Cold for New Year's Eve and mainly cold for New Year's Day. Once we get past the system down, we will definitely look a lot quieter and brighter come by the weekend.
Nice way to start the new year after ending it on kind of a crazy note, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's an interesting start to the year ahead of us, to say the least.
I guess so. Thanks, Nick. Still ahead on KOAM News at 10.
What happened to my daughter and my granddaughter? What all could somebody do to them?
A St. Louis family demands answers after the Christmas Day murder of a pregnant mother and her 2-year-old daughter. Two parents are grieving the loss of their daughter and granddaughter who were shot and killed on Christmas Day. Charisse Garvin was pregnant at the time. It happened in the St. Louis suburb of Spanish Lake, Missouri. Now the parents are desperate for information that can identify the person who pulled the trigger. Carolyn Hecker reports.
Christmas holiday is forever changed for the family of Charisse Garvin. Instead of boxes and wrapping paper piled sky high, a lone teddy bear sits at the end of her driveway, a subtle reminder of the tragedy that took place inside this home.
When I seen her car in the yard, and I knocked on the door and nobody answered. So I said, she's not there? I said, that's strange though for my daughter.
Willie Woodard, Charisse Garvin's father, says the nightmare began to unfold after she did not show up for a family Christmas dinner on Friday. After calling her and searching everywhere, the family then called police. The arriving officer was immediately concerned.
I said, well, maybe we'll leave. And she said, no. She said, something don't feel right. She said, something don't feel right about this.
About an hour later, police found the 28-year-old mother and her 2-year-old daughter, Alea, dead inside.
What happened to my daughter and my granddaughter? What all could somebody do to them?
The family says Charisse was 3 months pregnant when she was killed, and they're certain she put up a fight, trying to protect her 3 children who were inside the house.
I understand you having issues with my daughter. My granddaughter, a 1-year-old. You can't have an issue with a 1-year-old. The only person that can have an issue, you have issues if you kill and murder a 1-year-old.
Worse, the family says her 2 oldest children witnessed the killings and are now left without a mother.
We said, where is your mother? And she said, she is in the basement, dead. A 6-year-old, she said, I want to be with my mother and my sister, but I don't want to die to be with them.
The family says they suspect domestic violence and do not believe the killings were random, but they still want justice, and they say they can't start healing until an arrest is made.
Nobody has given me no information. I'm just sitting here just waiting, and I don't like the wait because it's been too long. It's going on too long. Please, somebody help.
No suspects are in custody. In a statement, Alea's father calls the news unimaginable and unfathomable. He says every Christmas will now be a reminder of this tragedy. Final check on the weather is next. Take time now to honor a U.S. Marine Corps veteran from Chautauqua, Kansas. Lance Corporal Landon Packard served in Iraq in the early 2000s, and we are proud to salute Lance Corporal Landon Packard, a four-state hero. All right, take a guess. What do you think was the best-selling tech product of 2020? If you said the iPhone, you're right. We're talking 195 million sold this year, a solid jump from 185 million last year. The projections come from an analyst for USA Today who says seeing that kind of an increase in the middle of a pandemic is pretty surprising. But it starts to make sense when you think about how many people needed to upgrade their tech gear since they're working from home these days. A number of other Apple products saw a boost this year too, including AirPods, the iPad, and the Apple Watch. Samsung's Galaxy smartphone also saw a slight increase, but Amazon's Echo didn't fare quite as well, seeing a dip in sales this year. Among those people working from home during the pandemic, Nick Kelly, final look at the weather.
All right, we're going to watch for rain and freezing rain chances by tomorrow morning. Hazelip will have the latest on that starting at 5, but 51 ultimately for highs tomorrow, then dropping with rain and more wintry weather chances to kick off the new year now.
Thanks, Nick, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. In the meantime, let's take care of ourselves and each other.